You are watching the New American Media. Live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, the West Coast, Pacific Time Zone, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Engelman. Thank you for joining us. This is Agree to Disagree here on the newamericanmedia.com. It's a radio show where we get into everything you're not supposed to talk about with people inside of a bar. Politics, spirituality, finance, all the good, fun stuff. You know, because we do different shows here. We do the Unhappy Hour and Strictly Browns because we talk about football and basketball and baseball and sports and irrelevant stuff. And then we talk about the really weird, crazy things going on. We got a grab bag over here at thenewamericanmedia.com, so do us a favor. Link up with us. Not LinkedIn, but link up with us. Hey, we should start linkup.com. Linkedup.com. Nah. But find us on Twitter. We're at American_media_. When you're on Facebook, search The New American Media and like our page. Leave some comments, please. Our homepage is thenewamericanmedia.com. And then over on YouTube, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Subscribe to the page. Check out some, pretty much, we're coming up on 2 years doing this stuff. This is pretty crazy. Lots of milestones lately. And we like that. Big fans of milestones. Means we're moving in the right direction, but it's the direction we're going to keep going on. You know, bestowed with this fantastic gift known as the internet, I would find it highly irresponsible if I just sat back and accepted all the nonsense coming from the talking heads of the paid corporate media. You know, it's cool for what it is, and a lot of it's all right, and a lot of it's not all right. A lot of it's just straight-up propaganda. A lot of it's stuff that just doesn't make sense, and that's what we examine here. You know, we get into really weird issues here, you know, and we hash it out. We're never looking to intentionally deceive you, never take what we're saying for fact. Come on, you're only one search away on startpage.com to verify some of this stuff or dig a little deeper, help us find some stuff. So that's what we're doing here. Thank you very much for joining us. Also joining us today will be Blake, the eccentric Walley. Blake is a radio host, a blogger, a citizen journalist. You can find him over on eccentricperspective.com. And then Blake and I co-host a radio show, Eccentric Perspective, over on freedomizerradio.com. You can hear that every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from noon to 1:30 p.m. Pacific. I've done a lot of the co-hosting on the Monday shows, and up until recently done a lot of the Wednesdays and Thursdays as well. And P.S., I'm going to whisper this. Here, I'll turn the music down a little bit. Blake and I have a syndicated radio show in the works. It's not quite done yet, so we're not advertising anything. But all signs point to a syndicated radio show. The country, different markets. It could be a lot of fun. So make sure you stick around and check out, you know, where things are headed, where things are going. By the way, the music we listened to, that's a song called Metro, composed by Sean Flynn. Johnny Rabb playing the lead drums on that, I guess. Cool song. We got to post that on the website too, so you guys can take a listen to it, because it's very, I don't know, it's stage 4 out of stage 10 of being released, but it's cool music. That's why we play it in the background here at thenewamericanmedia.com. So, seriously, thank you guys all so much. We got a lot of feedback when we were on Coast to Coast AM a couple of weeks ago, January 22nd, for National Hangover Day, the day after the Mayan calendar ended, with our good friend John B. Wells. Got a lot of feedback, a lot of good positive feedback. Talking to 5 million people, I guess I'll do that to you. So, you know, we appreciate it. We appreciate the fact that you take the time to listen to this, and you consider what's in my heart, what's in my mind, what's the motivating factor behind this. It's just trying to do what I wish other people were doing. You know, and I guess that's probably why I've gotten involved in most of what I've gotten involved in, whether it's a homeowners association or local, like collegiate politics or student programming boards or school newspaper, all the way up to the newamericanmedia.com. I'm doing what I wish other people were doing. You know, and I'm just trying to add my voice to the conversation. So let me do this right now. Let me add another voice to this conversation. This will be Blake, the eccentric Walley. Bring him into the show. We're going to go through a top news story extravaganza. Blake, you're live on the air, sir. Welcome back to the program on Agree to Disagree. How are you today?
Oh, wonderful as always, Brian. How are you?
Take a guess.
Living the dream.
You know, you took the words right out of my mouth with the prompt.
Right.
Good work. I actually watched a Doctor Who where this woman took the words out of Doctor's mouth, and she got into his brain, and then she literally took the words out of his mouth, and then anyway, he saved the day at the end, but it was harrowing.
Oh, thank
to
God!
be sure.
You had me a little worried there for a minute. All right, I don't know how he's going to get out of that. He's a clever one, though. I got to give it to him.
He's brilliant. Yeah, big Doctor Who fans. But anyway, I had already told people they can find you at eccentricperspective.com, freedomizerradio.com, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. What I forgot to say is they can do the podcast. Go on iTunes and search Eccentric Perspective, and they can get your podcasts delivered to them, which is super cool. Gotta love the technology. And on Twitter, you're at Eccentric99, so we hope everybody follows you there. For the people that have never heard you before, why do you do what you do? Why do you find stories on Twitter? Why do you help produce and engineer your radio shows and help produce these shows that we do here at thenewamericanmedia.com from time to time? What makes you tick? Why do you do it? Why do you care? Why should other people care?
I am extremely concerned about the problems that we have as a nation and as a world, and I want to make the future a better place. I don't like the road we're going on, and I try to put out different. I see the world a bit differently than I'm being shown by the establishment and the media, and I seek to, put out my own, I guess, different information. I guess I see it differently. I have my own point of view, and I try to put that out there. Voice of reason and common sense. In a world of corporate journalism gone wrong.
Yeah, and we've said we're going to continue infecting the world with truth.
Yeah, but it's up to the people to go check out the information for themselves.
Contaminating the world with truth is what I meant to say.
Right, I like that.
But what you were saying though is compared to what you're getting from the other media, and I think that's a key component to the conversation here is the reason that you're not getting what you want to get from the media. You don't think it's because they're inept. You think that it's because they've studied Edward Bernays and propaganda, and really that we're getting half-truths, mistruths, misdirection, cover stories, false
sinister.
Flags. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think maybe there is a little bit more ineptness inherently in their system then. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth.
Not necessarily that either. These people that work for corporate media, they get paid a lot of money. They got a job, and they'll do what they're told to an extent, and maybe some of them are compartmentalized. There's certainly some that are definitely useful idiots, and there's some that are fully aware of what they're doing and deceiving the public.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of selling out for how much money. I do my own media. I don't have Geico and McDonald's and Coca-Cola and pharmaceutical companies influencing the news that I put out. And
you never will with that attitude. And you never will. You'll be selling survival meals and
right.
crank radios, crank charge battery radios, and you'll have solar panels. And what would you advertise in your ideal world? What would you, when we get our sponsors? Because by the way, I did whisper to the audience. I said, Blake and I have a syndicated radio show in the works. It's not complete yet, but we're working on it. So when we do start reaching out for sponsors, what would you like to sponsor you? Like Honey Nut Cheerios or I mean like
GMOs? Yeah, I like Monsanto. I think they do a good job. I'd like to get some of that money. No, you know what? That's a good question, Brian. I really don't know. Yeah, a lot of the people in the so-called alternative media do sell survival stuff, and I totally understand why. I got nothing against that. People should just be prepared for anything. But we just talked about why do I do this. That's one of the reasons I do this as well, is because I started seeing that prepping culture. I started getting into that. You start worrying about, is there going to be a collapse? Is something bad going to happen? And then you start thinking about the different scenarios. And then I went, you know what? I think we can beat this. I don't think we have to go down that road, and that there is a chance to make this world a better future without just having everything fall apart. So that's another reason I get involved in that. So it's a tough thing. Maybe precious metals, and maybe that would be one way of looking at things. I don't know. That's a good question, Brian. What do you think are good sponsors?
Well,
you're more of a prepper, though.
Well, I was a Boy Scout, and I was taught to kind of be responsible for my own actions. That doesn't mean I've been a perfect human being or that I'm going to be tomorrow. But I've always I just understand that I got to take care of myself. That this is what it is, and sometimes we all end up in self-destructive patterns, paths that are no longer working for us, places where you're just not. Things and systems and jobs that just aren't working, they're not providing enough. We all get wrapped up in certain things, but as much as we can, you try to be responsible to the point where you prepare for the bad stuff and you hope for the best stuff. But hoping for the best isn't going to change the coverage that we're getting on Benghazi. It's not going to change the coverage that we're getting on just pick any weird story. We got to go out and get that ourselves. We can sit there and be a slacktivist all we want, but it's not going to get anything done. So it's like, hey, you know what? Let's just get out there. Let's do our radio shows. Let's get on YouTube. Let's get out there on Twitter. Let's get out there on Facebook and connect with similarly minded people. And I personally think, I personally believe, therefore, such as... Sorry, you got me thinking about like the pageantry of like Miss Teen USA or something when you said, I want to make the world a better future, a better tomorrow.
Right.
And when I say I personally believe, that's very redundant, and it's a phrase I try not to use, so I caught myself there. But I believe that we can steer this ship from when people say be ready in case the ship hits the sand. I don't want it to hit the sand. I'm cleaning that up a little bit for radio. But,
I like it.
I don't want the ship to hit the sand. I don't want to crash. I don't want things to get bad. Common sense. I just want things to function in a way where we all have a chance, where we all just have a chance. It's equality, it's liberty. These are good things, but in so many ways,
good stuff. Go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I can remember mine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I see us at a big crossroads. The establishment seems to be kind of leaning us towards a cliff of some sorts, whether it's an economic collapse or whether we descend into tyranny. I kind of see. I don't like the road that we're on, and it seems to be either going in one of two directions. We could either go into a new dark age, or we can go where some kind of 1984 Orwellian state, or a road warrior type of collapse, or we can have a new age of enlightenment, maybe a new renaissance, if you will, a new spiritual, mental evolution of sorts. And I think that's very possible, and I think it's very easy. I think it would be easy to turn this around if we can get that word out.
Well, and I think more people are waking up on a daily basis. Sometimes this can be frustrating. Sometimes it can be, you get wrapped up in the negativity, and then the negativity bleeds into everything else that you're doing, and all your conversations tend to, not you or me necessarily, but I'm speaking from my personal experience. Sometimes if
me too.
But if a person gets frustrated and then you're sharing that frustration with people, you tend to be like an energy vampire, and it's always doom and gloom and negativity. And did you hear this horrible thing? And oh my gosh, if this happens, a war is going to break out, But like these are legitimate concerns. Like, holy crap! Do you guys recognize the importance? Do you guys recognize the importance of what we're talking about here? This is serious stuff. This is a big deal. Can you please stop watching reality TV and sports for just a second and take a look at this? Help me, please. I'm trying to help you. But
no, it's a nightmare, Brian. I've been trying to. There's so many people that are even close to me that I've been trying to warn for years, who just will not let me even speak. And it's like they just want to live in their own little world and believe in their own little fantasy land. They think I'm, paranoid or something, but they don't even know where I'm coming from because they won't even give me the chance to speak. So it's really frustrating and irritating because it's so easy to turn this around, but the people out there have just got to, just for a month or something, just stop, doing what you're doing. Stop the sports and the video games and the reality TV and the stupid culture. We've got to turn this thing around, and it can be very easily.
And the weed and the alcohol, like in moderation, folks. Whatever you choose to do, just moderation. You don't need to walk around in a blur, a self-induced haze, a coma of just disillusionment and well, I almost swore right there, but being messed up or altered. Come on, shake the cobwebs away, clear some of the stuff that's no longer working for a second. And, come on, because it's weird to say when someone like myself and someone like yourself, you get on radio and you put yourself out there on videos and you do interviews and you write different articles, and we're really putting ourselves out there. You stand up on the soapbox and people are going to throw rotten tomatoes. That's just the nature of it. So it's hard to get people to believe, and sometimes it's hard to personally believe. I personally believe it's hard to say that I'm not doing this for me, when it's my name on everything, and I'm out there, and publicity, and you just want to be a celebrity, or you're doing this because you want to get your name out, or maybe eventually get a show on MSNBC or Fox or something, and you just this is all about you, and this is your ego trip, but I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for the child I haven't had yet. I'm doing this in appreciation for what my grandparents did and what happened 230-something years ago when they really laid their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on the line for something bigger than themselves. And it's hard, Blake, because I'm not doing this for me in an ego-driven way. Of course I'm doing this for me because I don't want my life to be miserable, and I think that if we allow certain bad people to do certain bad things, my life will become miserable, and I don't want that. But I'm really trying to do this for everybody because I know people have done the same for me, and I'm trying to pay it forward. But, inevitably people will get accused, this is about you, and it's an ego trip, and, you got this messiah complex or something like that. And it's like, man, I'm just trying to do what I think is right. I don't know what else to do. I'm not wired to give in and give up and accept bad things. It's like there's always room for improvement,
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And it would be totally different if if I was trying to become a like you said, MSNBC. If you were gonna use the established, play with the establishment, that'd be one thing. But that's clearly not what we're doing. I've been doing this for 2 years. I haven't made a single dime for any of my efforts. I'd like to turn that around in the future. But we were just talking about the sponsors. Do you think you're getting lucrative sponsors from that, or do you think you're going to get lucrative sponsors from working for Fox or ESPN or MSNBC when you're getting all the the big pharmaceuticals, or you're talking about alcohol, get Bud Light as a sponsor, get that big money. That's selling out. Doing what you believe in is a totally different ball game. So, I don't get up and volunteer my time just because I'm expecting some kind of big contract or something, because that's not it's not even feasible in the market that we're dealing with. So they don't seem to understand what they're talking about.
Well, you know what, I do expect that as people start waking up in the audiences for the Coast to Coast, or the Alex Jones or the New American Media or Freedomizer Radio,
two of the
whatever.
Only exceptions, yes.
I think as people start waking up and finding other people, I think what's going to happen, Blake, and I firmly believe this, and I'll put the ideas. I have a few books that I've been working on, some outlines. One is a sports book, and not sports book like you in Las Vegas. I'm not gambling, not a gambling book. I mean a sports-themed book regarding psychology of what happens to generations of people when Cleveland sports inevitably lose, and then generations of kids grow up and grandparents tell them, they're going to lose. They're always find a way to lose. They're never going to win the big one. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of doom and gloom and defeat. Yep. But that's another thing. So I do think at some point...
I was a Cubs fan for 15 years. I know what you're talking about.
Buddy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but at least Chicago still had, the Blackhawks. They had the Bulls and Michael Jordan. They had plenty to celebrate. The Bears.
I was a Minnesota fan. It's all right. We're getting...
we're getting sidetracked.
I'm not a Chicago boy, but yeah.
But what I'm saying is this: I do think that this will be lucrative coming up, because I aside from the book that I was just mentioning there, I do think that sponsors are going to start finding people like us, because the way I see it is I'm just trying to put out there things that concern me, would likely concern other people if they became aware of it, and I'm seeking truth, challenging dogma, and having fun. And I think as the brand of what I'm doing, I hope as the audience finds us, and they have, what is it, 50,000 on Twitter, 60,000 video views on YouTube, talked to 5 million people on Coast to Coast the other night with John B. Wells, and whatever, how many hundreds on Facebook. People are slowly finding us, and I think as the brand of what I'm putting out there is at least, it's honest to the point where I'm trying to be honest. I don't have an ulterior motive, an ulterior agenda. I want things to be good, and I'm just trying to find the bad things and just identify it and talk about it, and let's have this conversation together. But I think the brand of at least pushing for honesty, pushing for some transparency, some legitimacy, some truth. I think sponsors will eventually find that, as long as I don't get too mean-spirited, too off-the-rails, crazy, lunatic fringe. But I mean, in our society today, if you're pro-Second Amendment, some people want to call you a lunatic fringe. If some people say, well, I don't know, running a $17 trillion debt on your credit card is probably not a good idea. Oh, you just want to throw grandma off a cliff. Give me a break. I don't think I'm ever going to win over people that are so easily succumbed, that buy in so easily to those types of arguments. But I think there's a lot of people in the middle that are starting to see that the narrative they've accepted, oh, it's got to be Republican or Democrat, that's not true. That's not true. That's only true if you make it true. And the fact that we can't get our act together, and that we got to keep having all these wars and relatives and friends of ours dying in foreign conflicts, when we got homeless people on our streets here and we can't seal our southern border, when, it's just... I think people are going to eventually find the common sense middle ground, and I hope some of them come over and enjoy what's going on over here. And that's why we have you on, because you're more out there. You're a little bit more feisty and fiery from time to time. And I'm not going to say that I disagree with a lot of things you're saying, but everybody has their own personality, their own method, their own technique. And people don't have to agree with anyone 100% of the time at all. But if it's coming from a place of respect and love and trying to find what's going on and make it better, I hope people are going to understand the intent behind that.
Well said, Brian.
Well, okay. Let me answer the question that... all right, then. Let me go back and answer the question that you asked earlier about sponsors. I have this new idea. We got to do a comedy sketch. A comedy sketch or a comedy skit. We can do that on the Freedomizer Radio Network, or we could do it for the newamericanmedia.com. But here's what it is. I'm seeing a 30-second ad for a new cereal. It's called GMOs.
Nice. Sounds good.
What's your toy? What did you find in here? Oh, I got a 2-headed rat from one of the experiments. I mean,
right.
There's 100 ways we can go with that. We'll do some comedy on the other side. But anyway, I digress. But I think GMOs would be a great breakfast cereal for everyone else to eat but me. I'm not going to go down that path. Thank you very much. Whenever I can avoid it, I'll go a different direction until it's proven one way or another what it's really causing. So
I don't know. I think Monsanto said their products are safe to eat, so I think we should take them at their word.
Oh, is that like the science is proven?
Yeah,
is that like the Al Gore
settled.
thing?
It's settled.
I'm sorry,
You're
it's
just
settled.
a denier if you don't believe it. Yeah, are you a scientist, Brian? Are you? Okay, all right.
I had a guy I was talking about. What was it, like the galactic rift and different galactic alignments with 2012 and what some Mayan scholars have talked about. And I had a guy at a bar say, there's no such thing. Any 2 points can be in a line at any given time, and I should know. I'm an astronomer. It was hilarious. My buddy never lets me live it down. He still laughs about it. I'm like, whatever, man. Sit up on your high horse and talk about it. I'm just saying. So anyway, moving on here, because this is our top story extravaganza here on Agree to Disagree. It's a bit of a working title we have for this upcoming show. We still have yet to name it. So I guess at this point, let's just go through a bunch of stories. In case you missed it, here's what's going on. I know you got a bunch of things in front of you. I got a whole list of things here, and I got some thoughts on a lot of these. So let's just get into it. Pick whatever's closest to your heart, and let's rock and roll. Give us the headline, a little bit of the info, and let's chat about them, shall we?
Sure. Yeah, I don't even know if this was worthy to start. It just happens to be up on the front of my computer right now.
Then
and
I
you
guess
were
it
just
is.
talking about boxes of cereal. Here's an idea for a toy. How about a pink bubble gun, a little Hello Kitty pink bubble gun that shoots bubbles out of it? I bring this up because recently, actually this is from yesterday, a kindergartner was grilled for 3 hours and forced to undergo psychological testing because of a Hello Kitty little pink, like a little gun that shoots bubbles. Right. So we're getting into this whole Sandy Hook thing and the gun control issue. So yet another hysterical overreaction to last month's Sandy Hook school shooting. A girl of 5 years old has been suspended from school following a 3-hour grilling when she joked that she would shoot her classmates with a toy gun. So, I can read on here. School officials reportedly categorized the incident as a, quote, terroristic threat and labeled the girl's actions a, quote, threat to harm others. God, I don't even know where I want to go with this. Superintendent yeah, go ahead. Do you want to?
No, I'm just wondering who a bubble gun of soapy water could harm as far as harming others, other than like some of the Occupy protesters.
Well, I mean, clearly, she's 5 years old, so I mean, if she doesn't have her stuff together by now,
some soap.
I don't know what. Yeah.
Here's some soap, and it's offensive to me because I choose not to wash. How does it damage? And by the way, we went out to Occupy LA and we met a lot of good people out there. And some other people, but there were a lot of good common sense people out there. Maybe not the majority, but anyway, I'm just playing people because some of the things you say make sense, like end the Fed. It's an interesting conversation to have. But anyway, so she's suspended for having a pink Hello Kitty bubble gun of soapy water. She's suspended after being interrogated for 2.5 hours and kicked out of school. Really? Really?
This is what they got to start doing, Brian. They got to start getting these people in the system before they become future terrorists.
Minority Report.
Terrorism.
Yeah, it's Minority Report, because then as she grows up, well, you didn't pass our universal background check because it says here as a 5-year-old you threatened to shoot your classmates. I was 5 years old.
That's a good idea, Brian. I don't think this girl should ever hold a job or be able to own any, house or anything like that. I think this should, absolutely be on her permanent record. And this is a lesson for everybody.
Now, can you do me a favor? Can you tweet this out on your feed as we close all these stories? By the way, Blake.
I already did. I think it was from yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I can even pull up the title on it. Yeah, people should go check out. They got a lot of good news highlights on the Twitter feed, Eccentric99. It's called, the war on 5-year-olds, but I guess I could have gone with the war on Hello Kitty bubble guns, I guess. Yes, girl suspended for terroristic threat to shoot classmates with a pink bubble gun.
We used to play war in our woods. I grew up in Ohio, and all of our neighbors, we had woods in our backyard, and we'd build little forts and had little toy guns, and we'd run little drills to try to capture the other person's fort, and we'd clear out paths and name the paths, make them little roads in the woods, and we'd play all these games and climb trees and stuff, and we'd have like these little fake cutout shotguns and stuff, and you'd play your little war games. You have your little handheld, your little pistol or something. I mean,
and now you're a domestic terrorist. Look.
So now under Obamacare, if I were to let's theorize this. Let's talk about this. Let's examine this just one more step here. So if I were playing war in the woods with my friends, let's call them Steve and Mike because their names were Steve and Mike, along with everybody else and my brother. I'm sorry. We'll call them S. No, we can't call them S and M because then that would get weird. Let's just say you play with
would get a little weird.
You're playing war with your friends, but man, that went strange. Anyway, so say I'm climbing a tree, playing a war game with our friends in the woods, and I fall out of the limb that I'm in, trying to shoot at somebody, and I fall and break a wrist or something as a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or something. Okay. So then I go to my doctor, and I fell and hurt my hand. Well, what happened? Well, I was playing war, and I was trying to lean out to get around the tree and shoot my friend, and I fell and broke my wrist. So under this new executive directive, what do they call it? Executive order, executive directive, executive...
Yeah, they kind of softened the language down to make it sound, well, they didn't want to get to the stuff that they wanted to do. I think there was a little bit too much pushback, so obviously, and then they had to change the language of it to make it sound, less threatening.
So under the new Obamacare guidelines, if I were to go in there and talk about guns, then he could start asking about guns. Well, you were trying to shoot your friend? Well, maybe that leads to a 2.5-hour interrogation with a psychological professional, a child psychologist. And maybe I do get put on a list. And maybe as a kid, I'm now on a list because something occurred and I was trying to shoot my neighbor or something like that. Now I'm stretching a little bit, just like I would have been stretching to shoot around the tree, hypothetically in this situation. But at what point does Minority Report and the predictive abilities of behavior to future criminal activities, at what point do you start drawing the line? Because when you start blurring this, gray can either be white or black. It can be right or wrong. It can be left or right. It can be this gray area starts to really open the door to, well, have you ever said something that came out the wrong way? Have you ever said something in anger that you didn't mean? Have you ever said something in anger that you did not act upon because that would be lunatic? At what point do you start erasing people's rights because of something they may have said without an action to follow up on it? Like, these are legitimate questions that people start to ask. Well, if you let them do this, what could happen next? And I think that's legitimate.
Yeah, no, and I mean this is completely insane here. This Superintendent Bernard Steller of this Mount Carmel school, who has, guess what? He's refused to comment on the incident.
You know what? You know, Blake, I find the fact that he refuses to comment on the incident, I find that action stellar.
Yes, good one. So this guy at first suspended the girl for 10 days. So they held her behind
zero
closed
tolerance.
doors.
Zero tolerance, Blake. It's for the children, Blake. Zero tolerance.
Think about this. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that watch these, detective shows and stuff. So picture a superintendent, an adult man, with a 5-year-old girl behind closed doors, several hours. The girl's parents were not even present, according to the lawyer. And then decides after this 3-hour interrogation or 2.5 hours, whatever, decides that he's going to lay down a 10-day suspension for a 5-year-old girl. Right. That is the logic going on and the aftermath of the Sandy Hook shooting.
And where was this? Mount Carmel? Was this California? Where is this at?
Don't know. Mount Carmel School. It's a good question. I don't know where this is. Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Well, you know how they bitterly cling to their gods and their guns over there. You know,
right?
Those bitter clingers.
Right. No, I know. There was, of course, also the recent 6-year-old boy up in Maryland that was suspended for making a gun gesture with his hand and saying "pow." Days later, a couple 6-year-olds in Maryland were suspended for putting their fingers into shapes. Yeah, in Oklahoma, a 5-year-old was also recently suspended for making a gun gesture. And, of course, a 13-year-old, 7th grade, also suspended just for making hand gestures, not for actually having a toy gun that maybe looks like a real gun, or a real gun, as horrible as that would be. No, it's just little, really obviously fake toy guns and just making hand gestures now.
Well, there's one. Let me add
grounds for punishment.
Let me add one more to it, and then we'll move on to another story from August 29th that reminded me, and I just looked it up. Nebraska family and school are at odds over a deaf boy's gun-like sign language name. The parents of a 3-year-old deaf boy from Nebraska say his preschool told them he must change the way he signs his name. This is a deaf child. The Nebraska preschool tells him that he must change the way he signs his name because it looks like a finger pistol. but the school says the family has their signals crossed. The family of preschooler Hunter Spanier said officials...
I was about to say, is his name Hunter?
His name is Hunter. At Grand Island Public Schools told him the manner in which the boy signs his name is a violation of its weapons in school policy. They claim they were told Hunter has to modify the way he signs his moniker to comply with the school's zero-tolerance code against weapons in schools. Quote, anybody that I have talked to thinks this is absolutely ridiculous, end quote. Hunter's grandmother, Janet Logway, told KGIN, this is not threatening in any way. So, we have to do something, Blake. We have to do something.
We're obviously going to have to change all their names. Everybody named Hunter is going to have to change their name. I mean, that could invoke thoughts of shooting guns or something like that.
Well, wait,
putting violent thoughts into the heads of kids.
Yeah, but
Brian,
what's wrong with that? We all know the Second Amendment is there for hunting.
Right. Only if the government has your arms, and then you can make fill out a special paperwork, and then maybe once or twice a year you can get the gun, and a single shot action, just 1 or 2 bullets, and if you get to go hunting for a couple days, and that should be the joy of hunting, Brian. That's what the Second Amendment is there for.
Well, that's why they specifically said in the Second Amendment that it's only there that the rights of the people to own a single fire musket shall not be infringed. I mean, that's what they were clearly talking about.
Okay. You got to get special permission.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the comma in there. It was written in
from your feudal lord.
It was written in like milk or lemon juice, or how does that work? Where you write an invisible letter and then it shows up under black light or something like that. That's right.
Right.
But I would love to hear that argument when they say you can't do that, and say, well, the Second Amendment, it's there for hunting. That's what I keep hearing from you guys, Pierce Morgan and others. Blake, we're through the looking glass, my friend. We're in cuckoo world. So anyway, let's move off of this story with the children and their Hello Kitty pink bubble guns.
We just segued into another story with children.
All right, let's go.
Our dear Lord and Savior Obama, and they're calling Newsweek already is all calling him the second coming. All right, I guess on their new cover, but. Yes, there's been some controversy about Obama posing with children when he did his little executive order speech.
Okay, pause right there. Pause with the children, just and we'll pick it up right there. But you said our Lord and Savior. You're obviously referencing, because we've talked about this before, but if people haven't heard it before,
Jamie
explain.
Foxx.
Yes, and he the star of Django. Comments. Yes.
Yes. He was on BET doing some sort of promotion, and in the commercial he was saying, yes, our dear Lord and Savior Obama. Our Lord and Savior Obama. Okay. And getting the crowd all fired up.
Hooray. So anyway, that's the context there. So reset it that he's receiving some criticism for posing with children during this whole... Yes. Gun control or anti-Second Amendment or unconstitutional, this whole thing. And by the way, I want to get to that because, talking about the doctors getting involved and asking about guns, yeah, I'm legitimately a little conflicted there because I do have a psychology degree and I have volunteered at some places, albeit not for a little bit, but I was always taught that if any patient is having thoughts, if a patient is discussing legitimately having thoughts about hurting themselves or other people, there is an obligation in the mental health field to alert the authorities. That's where patient-client confidentiality does break down because there's a moral obligation to then step in, either have the person committed, receive additional psychiatric treatment, because if they're considering doing this, there is a right to act, but it's a slippery slope at the same time. So I'm a little conflicted there, but we can get to that later. I don't want to go off too far on a tangent. Let's get back to your posing with children thing, shall we?
Yeah, well, people did get the chance to see when he made out his 23 orders. It was all about he had all the children around him. He's actually even been tweeted out a story from a little letter from an 8-year-old. He's pulling on everybody's heartstrings to push his agenda. Like, oh, look at the children, look at Obama up there with all the kids. He cares so much about our kids, and he's kind of putting that image out in people's minds that you're against children if you're not for his gun control measures. And of course, they've showed pictures. There was an interesting article from InfoWars, and it was later on the Drudge Report, showing different dictators of the past posing with children to get their agenda across. And that includes Mao and Hitler and Uncle Joe Stalin. So, it was pretty disturbing that you would sink to that level. A lot of people thought it was shameless, including myself.
What's not to like? What's not to like these days? You know, the overt, the obvious propaganda techniques. I mean, it's like you open up the playbook. Well, if you got a tough issue and you need to pull on the heartstrings, bring out some kids, or a puppy dog, or a kid puppy dog, or a kid holding a puppy dog, or a puppy dog holding a kid that's holding another puppy dog. You know, I mean, it's just like, come on. Yeah, okay, so, well, I'm sure he's not the only politician that's ever, kissed a baby, quote unquote, if you will, on the campaign trail. I mean, that spans party line,
That's fine. But when you're trying to pass some dangerous legislation, perhaps, or some overreaching legislation, or just anything that you're trying to, fit an agenda, for your cause, and you're posing with a bunch of kids, that's crossing a line. Leave them out of it. They don't know what's going on.
That's fair enough. I can accept that, and I can be aware of that, and I think it's okay to point out that some bad people in the past have posed with. I saw a really, I don't want to call it a good Hitler quote. That's kind of like the wrong context. I'm trying to explain here, but I'm gonna look it up right here on our Twitter feed. By the way, once again, since our culture is extremely ADD riddled, I'll remind you that if you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so. It's at American_media_. I'll tell you what, why don't you find another story as I search for this Hitler quote, and I'll tell you, not exactly, like I said, not why it's a good quote, but why it's an enlightening quote. An enlightening quote? I'm not calling it a lightning quote. By the way, Danny Glover, did you hear that one? That actor Danny Glover tells Texas A&M students that the Second Amendment was created to protect slavery. Did you hear that one?
Yes, he's made a couple of really stupid comments as of late. The other one was he was trying to put a petition to get Paul Krugman, the New York Times economist, as the new Treasury Secretary. And yes, and exactly, you just mentioned what he just, the other dumb thing that he just put out there. Yeah.
Well, I'm having
clearly does not know history. Yes.
Well, I'm having a difficult time trying to find this quote that I was going for with Adolf Hitler, but it was something along the lines of all of the reasons why life is going to get so much better under his new gun control. And here are all the reasons why. If all you have to do is just listen to the wise words of why gun control makes sense, and then see what happened. You push for gun control, and then things are easier if you want to do bad things. So, it's just.
It's pure propaganda when you're posing with children and you're making it look like you're this great guy, and it's a way of getting people to lean towards your cause in a shameless way.
Okay, well, let's move on then, as I still try to find this.
No worries.
Okay, so what else we got?
What else do we got? I guess we got a quick one blurb on the, speaking of gun control here, you got the Eric Holder begging the court to stop document release on Fast and Furious.
Now, why would our top cop want to do such a thing? Because we're talking gun control, and we sent out on our Facebook feed, and I just saw a second ago, from about an hour ago, Mark Claire, Donnie Zaltzberg, Justin Boyce, all these people just liked this thing that we sent out here. You know what? It's actually regarding this Holder begging court to stop the document release on Fast and Furious. We said this is part of our TNAM Second Amendment watch. The phrase that we used was, you want to talk about gun control? How about we finally get to the bottom of this whole Fast and Furious debacle? Oh, wait,
that
that's
makes sense to me,
off
yeah.
the table. How about Executive Order 24? We finally get the information regarding Fast and Furious, trying to figure out why Brian Terry was killed with a gun that was run to the bad guys intentionally. Could that have been part of this effort by Eric Holder, who was on record talking about wanting to brainwash people against the Second Amendment? No, unless it is. So anyway, let's get back to this story.
Right. So Attorney General Eric Holder and his Department of Justice have asked a federal court to indefinitely delay a lawsuit brought by watchdog group Judicial Watch. The lawsuit seeks the enforcement of open records requests relating to Operation Fast and Furious as required by law. And so the administration has refused to comply with Judicial Watch's Freedom of Information Act request, and in mid-September the group filed a lawsuit challenging Holder's denial. That lawsuit remains ongoing, but within the past week, President Barack Obama's administration filed what's called a motion to stay the suit. So such a motion is something that, if granted, would delay the lawsuit indefinitely. So Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton said that Holder's and Obama's desire to continually hide these Fast and Furious documents is ironic now that they're so gung-ho on gun control. So it is beyond ironic that the Obama administration has initiated an anti-gun violence push as it's seeking to keep secret key documents about its very own Fast and Furious gun-walking scandal. So I will
Blake,
leave it there.
This is the most transparent administration in history.
Yes, I 100% agree.
So, I mean, I thought we had all the facts. I thought the science was settled.
Yes, the science is settled. There is nothing to see with the Fast and Furious thing. There is nothing to see with the Benghazi thing. Everything's fine. The economy's turning around. The inauguration's tomorrow. I think we should all stand by our president. I'm sure it'll be a riveting speech.
Wait, it's Sunday?
And you can take... I don't know. I thought so. I thought I saw an article today that said it was tomorrow, but I'll have to double check on that.
Yeah, I gotta say I'm not really marking my calendar or setting my DVR. I'm just so yeah. Anyhow, well, you said something there about indefinitely, and you know what that reminded me of? That phrase. Does that remind you of anything? Because I'm thinking about the Federal Reserve's plan to indefinitely print, what is it, $40 billion a month to buy off your own worthless bonds?
Detain, yes.
Oh, indefinitely detain, too. What is that? That's from National Defense Authorization Act. Didn't Barack Obama sign that into law on New Year's Eve night or New Year's Day? Which one was it? Either way, when people weren't supposed to be paying attention, that people could indefinitely be detained without charge, without trial, once again, indefinitely throughout the duration of a conflict, the conflict being a war on terror, the war on terror taking place in your homeland, so Homeland Security can have drones up there looking and spying, violating your Fourth Amendment, because we're now at a war with a thing that cannot be defeated, because it's a thing, not a person. We're not, in wrestling, you're at war with the person you're wrestling, and you defeat them or you don't, or, two countries go to war, and you defeat the country, and you sign a treaty, and you end the war. This can never end, so it's an indefinite war, kind of like George Orwell talked about in 1984. And so indefinite, when we hear the word indefinite, we think NDAA, we think Federal Reserve, and we also think Fast and Furious. What's not to love? I like this word. It's like a code word for danger, right? Indefinite equals danger.
Yeah, and how do you get indefinite when you're held in contempt? I don't know. So, yeah, it's interesting to note that the administration, ridden with all kinds of different scandals, and you've got the top cop in the country who's extremely anti-gun, is on record as talking about brainwashing people, and he's been held in contempt because of not releasing the information on the possibility that he staged a false flag, I guess, if you will, to blame the Second Amendment.
Or brainwash people with propaganda to make them be able to make it easier to push illegal or unconstitutional or vastly overreaching legislation. By the way, it dawns on me just now that for a guy named Eric Holder, who's been held in contempt, someone who was held in contempt to be named Holder. Yeah, it just maybe it's fitting. Maybe it's fitting. Holder. You know what?
Right.
There's one more thing about Eric Holder. There's something I remember. There's one more thing, and I'm going to pull this up here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. ROTC. There was something that happened with Eric Holder as a college student. Let me just pull this up real quick. This is from a month or two ago, but I think it's relevant as Eric Holder talks on record on C-SPAN about wanting to brainwash people against guns. Not every now and then. We're talking every day to get people to think differently about guns like they do about cigarettes. This is a story from the Daily Caller. This is from, I believe, September. Where's the tagline here? There we go. Yeah, September 30th, not to be confused with September 11th, which was when Benghazi occurred, and we still don't know what happened. As a college student, Eric Holder participated in an armed takeover of former Columbia University ROTC office. This is a very interesting story here. As a freshman at Columbia University in 1970, future Attorney General Eric Holder participated in a 5-day occupation of an abandoned Naval Reserve Officer Training Corps ROTC headquarters with a group of black students, later described by the university's Black Students Organization as armed. The Daily Caller has learned. Department of Justice spokeswoman Tracy Schmaler has not responded to questions from the Daily Caller about whether Holder himself was armed, and if so, with what sort of weapon. Holder was then among the leaders of the SAAS, Student Afro-American Society, SAAS, which demanded that the former ROTC office be renamed the Malcolm X Lounge. The change, the group insisted, was to be made, quote, in honor of a man who recognized the importance of territory as a basis of nationhood, end quote. Black radicals from the same group also occupied the office of Dean of Freshmen Henry Coleman until their demands were met. Holder has publicly acknowledged being part of that action. The details of the student-led occupation, including the claim that the raiders were armed, come from a deleted webpage of the Black Students Organization, BSO at Columbia, a successor group to the SAAS. Contemporary newspaper accounts in the Columbia Daily Spectator, a student newspaper, did not mention weapons. Holder, now the United States' highest-ranking law enforcement official, has given conflicting accounts of this episode during college commencement addresses at Columbia, but both the BSO's website and the Daily Spectator have published facts that conflict with his version of events. Holder has bragged about his involvement in the, quote, rise of black consciousness, end quote, protests at Columbia. I was among a large group of students who felt strongly about the way that the world should be, and we weren't afraid to make our opinions heard, end quote, he said during Columbia's 2009 commencement exercises. I did not take a final exam until my junior year at Columbia. What? How did you pass until your junior year if you're not taking final exams? We were on strike every time finals seemed to roll around, but we ran out of issues by that third year. And the story goes on. You know what? I'm just going to tweet this out so you guys can take a look at this one. But I think we had talked about this on a previous show, Blake. I mean, isn't this like kind of a pattern of really disturbing, odd coincidences, if you believe in such things, which I don't? Doesn't it all kind of seem to point to that word again, indefinite, the kind of danger? You know, like these don't seem like I'm out of words here.
They don't feel like people that should be in charge of the rest of us. A lot of them have some things going on in their past that should be that should be openly questioned. Yes, we got to question the integrity of the people that are running the show right now, and they're protecting each other by executive action on this one, and holders and probably up to no good. But we don't know, and let's just release the information from Fast and Furious, and we'll find out. We'll get to the bottom of this guy and what he's all about. But I don't think the top cop in the country should be, anti-Second Amendment. I think that right there brings up a pretty big red flag to me.
Well, I just felt it was important to kind of put this out there. And you know what? For some reason, I can't find the share for the Twitter feed, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this on Facebook. So if you want to do it, go search thenewamericanmedia.com. Actually, I'm sorry, go to Facebook, search The New American Media, and we have just posted this. Just a little FYI.
Got a sweet fro in that picture.
He does have a sweet...
same article?
He doesn't have as sweet a fro as Barry O did. Barry O's fro was sweet back when he was in the Choom Gang, smoking weed every day in Hawaii with his high school pals.
Right.
He had a fantastic fro, cool fashion sense. I would have hung out with that dude. That was probably the only time I said, I feel a little bit of a connection with this guy. I could hang out with this guy, maybe. I could see.
For sure.
I could see being cool with this kid in high school. I could see playing pickup games at the rec, playing some basketball at the rec center, and I could imagine he'd be on my team from time to time, and
doing some roof hits, right?
Some roof hits. Anyway, I'm going to post this over on Facebook, so take a look at that. But, yeah, this whole thing, Holder being held in contempt and just trying to keep these documents from coming out, it's what I talked with Zach Barris about on our sports show on the Unhappy Hour about Manti Te'o. If you're and we're not sure if Manti Te'o was indeed duped or if he was involved in it, but really, it smells so fishy. It is very possible that he was a part of this, at least a small part. And the question is, if you're lying this much about it, what are you covering up? How bad could the truth be or what's going on in your mind if you're going to do things that are so bizarre? But, time's going to tell. Time's going to tell. Maybe this will all work out.
Yeah, it's hard to get in the head of a 22-year-old Mormon who's, Well,
it's hard to get in the heads of lots of people, even when you think you know them from time to time. So, anyway, let's move past Eric Holder. What else you got?
Just as I step away here.
See, I got you. See,
I was right here.
I was wondering if you were waiting for that perfect segue. The perfect segue.
I didn't know if you were okay. I didn't know if you were going to take some turns here. I have a few here. I'm not sure what we want to get into here. I mean, there's let's see. We could go into the Aaron Swartz thing, or we could also switch over to, I don't know. We can talk about the TSA. We can get into the sheriff stuff, Sandy Hook. There's so many different stories. What do you?
Dealer's choice, my friend. Dealer's choice. I'm relying you as being a bit.
All right.
And we do talk off air, and we kind of coordinate at least a rough outline of where we want to go. But I'd say you're producing this segment. So however you want to take it, let's bounce around.
They've moved the X-ray scanners out of American airports to be replaced. So they're finally getting rid of those awful naked body scanners. I guess they're going to eventually replace them with new scanners, but they canceled their old contract, TSA, so they're taking those out. And so it's a little victory there for the privacy advocates, freedom advocates that don't like those things, and I don't blame anybody. They're awful. And what's other interesting to note is that there was on the season of conspiracy theories this year with Jesse Ventura, they only ran 8 episodes, but there was one episode that they refused to allow on the air, and that was all about the TSA. So no doubt they were probably going to get into the radiation problems that they had with those things, as well as the privacy problems. So we can only imagine. And of course, you get insider stuff with shirt off. Getting money off of these things. You could look at the staged underwear bomber, Patsy, that was used to push these things out into the public in the first place.
Well,
But,
and there was also
regardless,
also whistleblower stuff about in the private rooms, like how they would treat it and the jokes that they would make. Do you have that pulled up?
Well, I know I want to say the activist's name is John Corbett, I believe, who showed that you could bring metal objects through those scanners by putting it in your pocket, your shirt pockets or sleeve pockets, I guess, and getting them just out of the frame. But there's also been other former TSA people that have blown the whistle. Talking about they basically laugh at people's images on those things in the back room when they're sitting in the back in the private room and you see people going through those scanners and you can get a very intimate look at their body more than you should. It's the pervert's wet dream, I guess. A
pervert's paradise. Is it coincidence then that Michael Chertoff kind of seems to rhyme with shirt off? Like if you're doing the naked body scans, shirt off and shirt off.
Oh, shirt off.
Yes, all the girls are walking through, your daughters, your wives, your girlfriends, your mothers, shirt off as all these people are gawking in some private room somewhere doing God knows what, and saving whatever images or photographing the image. They say, oh, well, there's no data. You can't save any of these. Well, what if you take a picture of the screen? I mean, stop it. You know, like all these the excuses that people make. It's like, you know, we have a Fourth Amendment right against illegal search and seizure. You can't just randomly do this type of stuff. War has been fought over this stuff, and we don't need to do it again. Just look at the rule book. You can't be doing this crap. None of us want bad things to happen on airplanes, but seriously, there's some sort of common ground between the shirt-off machines and something else. You know, it just takes. It's just so strange. You know, some dummy does something with his underwear, or some dummy tries to light his shoes on fire. So now everybody has to do this. Everybody has to take their shoes off. Everybody has to. There's car accidents every single day, but they're not banning cars. Well, someone has to do something about vehicles. Too many deaths. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you wear a seatbelt and you wear a helmet when you ride your bike, but I mean, like, what are you gonna do? What are you going to do? You're just going to sign away all your liberty and freedom to just it's not going to solve the problem, and you become less of a human in the process. That doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah, before the body scanners, what do we have? I mean, they didn't stop any terrorists whatsoever. You have the one questionable story of the whole 9/11 thing, who I guess they took over a plane with box cutters, if you want to believe that story. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the point of these whole scanners were. They didn't really seem to do anything or stop anybody. And if the worst thing that's ever happened, it's not like people bring guns on planes and that was a problem. I mean, it was, you know, one day, one incident with some box cutters and a whole fishy story surrounding everything about it. So, anyway.
Well, this is, by the way, this is coming out right now. Algeria hostage situation reportedly comes to a violent end as Panetta says much of the situation remains sketchy. Oh, I'm sure this is going to be great getting details out of this administration. The U.S. and British defense chiefs said the hostage crisis in Algeria ended with more deaths, but the details remained unclear. They blame the militants who seized the natural gas... They blamed the militants who seized the natural gas complex in the Sahara and not Algeria's government for its rescue operation. Of course, you don't want to ruffle some feathers with a gas-producing nation. According to Algeria's state news agency, I mean, do they refer to ours as like our state news agency when GE's in bed with MSNBC, which is in bed with the Obama administration and the White House? Is that state-run media? I don't know. I digress.
They're all yeah, it should be. They should refer to that. It would make more sense.
According to Algeria's state news agency, Special Forces Naturals stormed the complex Saturday in a final assault to end the 4-day-old hostage crisis. The report didn't say whether any hostages or militants remained alive, and it didn't give the nationalities of the dead. Senior U.S. officials telling Fox News it's premature to say the standoff is over as they continue to press Algeria for more details, and we've heard reports that everybody's dead. So, you know, let's wait for the situation to play out, but, you know, this is what happens when we have our sisters, our brothers-in-law, our cousins, our fathers and mothers serving in countries all around the globe trying to make sure that we're involved in their natural gas production. I mean, let's just face it. This is either blowback or this is the ramifications or the repercussions or bumps in the road, as the Obama administration referred to the deaths in Benghazi. You know, it's one thing to die defending yourself, your local neighborhood, or working in your country to make things better, and there are bad guys here and bad things are going to happen. But, I mean, when we're spread so thin all across the globe and we're fighting everybody else's conflicts so that we can get better deals on, I don't know, man. It really starts to grate on me, Blake.
Yeah, I think this definitely looks like some blowback of some sort. I mean, obviously, they're there to exploit the cheap labor and cheap resources. That's the only reason they're there. And of course, we're also arming dangerous Al-Qaeda terrorists, but they're our friends in certain situations, like in Libya or Syria.
What
guess.
Is it?
I don't know.
The enemy of your enemy is your friend, something like that. You know,
and
people
willing
say
to do the dirty work.
Yeah,
on our behalf.
And of course, you're referring to the classic Norm Macdonald comedy, Dirty Work. I'm sure. No,
oh yeah, good movie.
But I of course enjoyed it. I'm a Norm Macdonald fan, but it's just
Still?
You know, people
sidetrack.
People were saying I like sidetracks. They're more fun. When people talk about the Benghazi thing, and it's a lot like Manti Te'o. Until you really get to the bottom of what's going on, you hear every theory. You know, people are saying, oh, it was just a cover story because he's gay and he didn't want his teammates to think this, so he made up a fake girlfriend. Or, no, he was doing this so that he could be a sympathetic person and maybe he could win a Heisman as a defensive player, which is pretty rare. Or, for some reason, he's narcissistic, loves himself on TV, and he thought this would give him more coverage and maybe improve his draft. We don't know. Maybe he was just the victim of a hoax, and I'm waiting for this all to play out. And in either way, he's either ridiculously gullible and he wasn't taken advantage of, or he has mental issues. I hope he's speaking with some psychiatrists that can, or psychologists that can kind of help him right now. But what I'm saying is, and I made the point in my sports show, I linked it to Benghazi. I said, in the absence of fact, you hear all sorts of rumors. You know, just for 2 weeks, it was all about a YouTube video that nobody saw. Well, what are you covering up with a YouTube? Why are you saying it's about a YouTube video? It has nothing to do with the YouTube video. What's going on? You know, why are Americans being killed in other countries? What are you doing there? And then, of course, you hear stories that Christopher Stevens, our ambassador in Libya, he was running guns through Turkey to get them into the hands of the freedom fighters, Al-Qaeda-backed freedom fighters in other places so that they could help defeat, except they're part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And it's just this whole murky, weird gun running, reminiscent of Fast and Furious, still don't have any answers kind of thing. And it's like, guys, if we just disconnect from a lot of this goofy global nonsense, maybe these bad things don't happen. Now, maybe worse things can happen. I'm not so naive to think that I understand all of the nuances of foreign diplomacy and foreign politics and global politics, geopolitical politics, all that stuff, exopolitics. But seriously, something starts stinking, and if you can't get to the bottom of the story, it's worth repeating until we can get some facts. You know, I don't like talking about Benghazi 4 months later, but I still don't know what happened. You know, Algeria, what's going on, you know?
Yeah, well, we could even segue this into, speaking of YouTube videos and an information vacuum, we could go into this whole Sandy Hook shooting. It's odd. I'm looking at this. There's a hugely viral video going on right now. It's about a half an hour. It's called the Sandy Hook shooting, fully exposed. It's got pushing about 11 million views since it came out about 12 days ago. And just in the last hour since I've pulled this up, it's already got like another 225 new comments posted on this thing. I mean, this thing is still just red hot and going and viral at this very moment of people, you know, looking at all these the issues with the you know, the official story of Sandy Hook and just pulling out all those different little contradictions with that as well. Why aren't we getting the full story?
So what's at the crux of it? What is the crux of the? Yeah, it's a story.
It goes through all the different facts. That's things that we found out that are different with the story, and why aren't we getting these things and just pulling them all up? Whether it's you know, this whole thing with Adam Lanza, is why did they say, you know, his mom worked at the school? How come he didn't have any affiliation with the school? How come his supposed assault rifle that was used was still in the car? How come 4 handguns were found in the school instead? And how come the coroner is saying there's 3 to 11 bullet holes in each kid when that wouldn't make any sense if it was with the handgun? Why did the school nurse say that the mom was such a great lady when the mom was never a teacher there? Why are all these foundations set up for you know, for the victims, for you know, raising money for the victims, and these Facebook groups were posted days before the shootings took place? Why are there crisis actors involved? What's the deal with this Robbie Parker guy? Why is there a FEMA drill going on you know, 12 miles down the road or whatever it was on that exact same day, exact same time? Why haven't we seen any video surveillance footage for Adam Lanza coming into the school? Why are there other shooters supposedly that were caught fleeing the scene, disappeared? I mean, why is this guy who found all these kids on his front lawn, why was he, you know, holding these kids in his house for half an hour? Why did they go to this guy's house when there was a fire department that was nearby, and why was this guy also a member of the Screen Actors Guild? I mean, there are some weird parts of this story that are going on, and since we're not getting the facts out from the mainstream media, then people start to question all these things, and we're not getting any answers. So that's why we got this new viral video. Okay, I've been ranting, but yeah, I'm just going over just some of the pieces of this issue, and I haven't really gotten into it much. Just looking at the video and going, wow, yeah, there's a lot of questions going on here. And would anybody stage something like this? I don't know. I don't like to even think about answering questions like that, but something is wrong with it, and people are noticing something's wrong with it. So that's why there's so much interest in this.
All right, here's something I just found here talking about that, especially this Robbie Parker, because I think I even mentioned that when I had my brief 5 minutes with John B. Wills on Coast to Coast. Please check it out. Sign up for the Coast Insider or whatever they call it. It's like $5 a month. It's awesome. You get archives for like 3 shows. No, I don't work for Coast. Just I'm promoting their stuff for free. Yeah, that'll be my sponsor, Blake. On my radio show, I'll advertise Coast to Coast. Just kidding. Anyway, I'm over here. I'm on dailypaul.com, and I'm looking at this Robbie Parker thing because I did bring that up as being completely strange. And I did mention that I'm not stating with certainty that I know exactly what's going on and what it all means, but it's weird. It's definitely weird. So here's I just found this, haven't had a chance to hash it out, but it's something worth considering. Denver, Colorado, from MarketWire on October 31st, 2012. A new group of actors is now available nationwide for active shooter drills and mall shooting full-scale exercises, announced Vision Box, Denver's leading professional actors studio. Vision Box crisis actors are trained in criminal and victim behavior and bring intense realism to simulated mass casualty incidents in public places. Producers Jennifer McCrary Rincon and John Simmons formed the group to demonstrate emerging security technologies, help first responders visualize life-saving procedures, and assist trainers in delivering superior hands-on crisis response training. For example, with a large shopping center, the producers review all security camera views and design dramatic scenes specifically for existing camera angles, robotic camera sweeps, and manually controlled camera moves. The producers then work with the trainers to create a prompt book for the actors so that key scenario developments can be triggered throughout the mall shooting simulation and caught on tape. The actors can play the part. God, I mean, just imagine starting a company to fill a niche for this type of crap. Anyway, let me finish this here. I'm reading this for the first time. The actors can play the part of the shooters, mall employees, shoppers in the mall, shoppers who continue to arrive at the mall, media reporters, and others rushing to the mall in persons and motor vehicles around the mall. Vision Box crisis actors can also play the role of citizens calling 911 or mall management or posting comments on social media websites. Security camera footage is edited for after-action reports and future training. For more information, visit visionbox.org and crisisactors.org. Holy crap. Contact Nathan Bach. Amanda Brown, I'm not giving out the number until I can vet this, but holy crap.
Yeah. And, everybody's got to go check out the Robbie Parker video for sure. And then why are there just crisis actors? Even Anderson Cooper had to admit that there were crisis actors involved with this. So
wait, how do you mean? How do you mean? Explain that.
There was a controversy with a professor. I'm going to pull up his name here. If I actually know, I already got rid of it. I want to say it's James Tracy or something, Florida A&M or Florida. I can't remember I'm close on the name and the school there, but somebody that's been kind of calling out some of the problems with this Sandy Hook and the anomalies. So Anderson Cooper, yes, and he was called out on that. They were talking about the crisis actors, and CNN was forced to admit that there were, because that Robbie Parker video does show that it looks like it's footage from the Wolf Blitzer show. It's a situation room.
Okay, you know what? Hey, this is on crisisactors.org. I'm looking here, and here's Anderson Cooper. Let's see. CNN's Anderson Cooper debunks Sandy Hook crisis actors' conspiracy theories. Aired Friday, January 11 of 2013. 14, so about a week ago. This is January 14, statement from Crisis Actors. We are outraged by Florida Atlantic University professor James Tracy's deliberate promotion of rumor and innuendo to link crisis actors to the Sandy Hook shootings on December 14, 2012. We do not engage our actors in any real-world crisis events, and none of our performances may be presented at any time as a real-world event. James Tracy copied his material from blogs and YouTube channels that manufacture malicious rumors and false accusations. It is obvious to James Tracy and FAU that these sites pander to followers who need only rumor and innuendo to carry out a relentless hate attack against the Sandy Hook community as well as crisis act. Right, it's a hate attack against victims of a horrible shoot. No, it's actually people trying to dig around and find out, could any of this complete nonsense be true? You don't wake up and think that a bunch of little children are going to get shot in their school. You don't wake up thinking that these things are possible. And it's just like Benghazi. It's just like Manti Te'o. If you don't understand what the story is or how it could have happened, and if a couple things don't seem to add up, you start connecting more dots and you play the role of investigator. That's what it is. This isn't a hate attack against Sandy Hook community. Now, I'm not stating these things with any degree of certainty. I'm finding things and we're hashing it out here. There's a big difference between hashing something out and making definitive accusations when you don't have the information. That's not what we're doing. These followers' online campaign of threats and defamation continues to this day and interferes with official investigations into the Newtown tragedy. I love that one when it's interfering with official investigations. It's like, oh, you know, it's like a huge security blanket or an invisibility cloak. How can James Tracy and the university shrug off any responsibility for the pain they're causing?
Oh my God! Yeah, they only say stuff like that. Yeah, the pain you're causing by you're disrespecting the victims by asking questions. That sounds like something what people would say when they got something to hide. Yes, we're not getting our official story right. You got a lot of contradictions. We're simply calling it out, and we're also saying that I don't trust CNN. I don't trust their footage. I don't trust the establishment. I don't. So we're just questioning everything. And all they have to say, all they have to do is prove the guy wrong. But yes, there are real crisis actors. There is something that stinks about this whole story. That's all they're doing. And so it's not, they're demonizing this guy, and that's all. And all I got to do is just prove him wrong with the evidence. He's not disrespecting anybody.
And I found an article. By the way, I found this quote unquote, pardon the pun, but the quote unquote Hitler quote. The quote. This is from a website, straightdope.com. It says the quote you're talking about is something along the lines of the following: "This year will go down in history. For the first time, a civilized nation has full gun registration. Our streets will be safer, our police more efficient, and the world will follow our lead into the future." The reference is usually given as a speech by Adolf Hitler. Alternatively, some say it was in Mein Kampf, but that is easily checkable and proven false with citation above. I've seen this quote pop up many times, from political discussions to gun shows, where a friend told me he's found it emblazoned on signs. I don't think anybody knows the origin of it, but several have tracked it back and found it to be completely false. So, that's what we're doing here. Someone sends something out on Twitter, don't believe it. Check on the article. Is it somebody's rantings or is it verified fact? And it's easy on Twitter, because I don't read all the stories. I don't research or endorse the stuff that we tweet out. We find things that look interesting, we send it out, and the court of public opinion is going to hash this stuff out. We don't go out and put rumors about Manti Te'o as fact. We tell you what people are saying, and then we say, well, I don't know, could it be this, could it be that? We don't know what happened in Benghazi, so we're not telling you with factual evidence, but we're telling you what's not true. It had nothing to do with the YouTube video, so people were lying to us about it. We thought Manti Te'o's girlfriend died of leukemia. She didn't exist. So when you're lied to, it's okay to go after all of these angles and start digging around. It's not a malicious attempt to attack and get involved in an official investigation. It's something weird is going on. Watch the Robbie Parker video after Sandy Hook. Nobody that I could envision in my mind, my heart of hearts, could be laughing, not quite hysterically, but just having a good old time laughing, turns and sees the camera as deer in headlights, and then takes several breaths to get into character and then pretend that he's all broken up. It is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And I still don't know the story, if it's been verified that his daughter was indeed killed. I don't know.
Here's what I think. Gathering from what I heard part of this Professor Tracy interview yesterday on InfoWars with Paul Joseph Watson yesterday. And I think there's an interesting idea that you're talking about there was a drill going on. There's another FEMA drill about protecting children that was taking place down the road from Sandy Hook, same day, same time. And I think that's where the crisis actors probably were. And they probably had no idea that there was something actually going on at the Sandy Hook school, and they were just being in their character. They were just, and so I think that that got a legitimate reaction from him. So he wasn't necessarily a part of the cover-up per se, but he was just doing part of his role without actually knowing that there was a shooting. So I don't know. Someone's going to have to find him and interview him and see what's going on. So, until Anderson Cooper wants to start, digging around and asking some real questions, then, his words are in integrity are meaningless.
Well, look, I'm willing to accept that people grieve and deal with tough situations in different ways. If Manti Te'o was hoaxed into this whole situation with the fake dead girlfriend, yeah, you might be embarrassed and you might make a couple more lies as you try to just put the story to bed and move on with your life. I could envision a scenario where that might be possible. If a father was having a rough time and somebody is trying to make you laugh and you had a moment where you were finally able to laugh, but the deer in headlights look after that like, oh crap, it is possible maybe he was selfishly trying to exploit this situation to raise money for himself, to pay for bills, or to, help his financial lot in life. I don't know. I could envision scenarios where what I saw and what I heard, either Manti Te'o or this Robbie Parker, I can envision scenarios where something was taken out of context, or we didn't understand exactly what was happening before. We don't know who knew what and when did they know it, like Manti Te'o. Maybe he found out about a hoax later and then he just tried to finish it up so he could move on. I don't know. But I'm curious. I'm curious enough to bring it up and ask about it. I think we can ask about it. I think there's a certain level where you can also respect people's privacy and realize that people do dumb things, but it's not just the Robbie Parker thing. There are a lot of, what'd you say, there's 11 million views on this video? I mean, I don't know what all the comments are saying.
Yeah, that's just one video, yeah.
Yeah, it's just one. I mean, maybe everybody from now until the end of time, there's going to be a conspiracy theory for anything that ever occurs from now on. Maybe that's just the new normal. Maybe that's the case. I don't know, but I'm trying to debunk the garbage. I'm just trying to debunk the garbage, yes, and blame the media because we don't trust their crap anymore. Yeah, we don't trust their crap anymore because we've been lied to so much.
Why is it always using the term conspiracy theorist? Why can't they just prove it wrong and then we can find out what the truth is?
Because it's the most intellectually lazy argument that anyone can ever have to try to silence critics and opposition and those that can damage them. You attack the person that's questioning you. It's a Saul Alinsky tactic. It's a tactic that goes back to the beginning of time. That if someone's getting under your skin or starting to come at you, you attack them and accuse them of a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. No, I just keep hearing weird things, and I'm trying to in my rational thought, I'm trying to debunk the garbage and erase the crap so that I can then tell people, no, actually, if you go here, you can find the evidence that says this is not true. Just like the Hitler quote you find somewhere. Now, that's just one place that said it's not true. You got to check multiple sources. You never take anyone's word for anything, whether it's Fox News or MSNBC or Brian and Blake. You just do your own homework. Please don't believe all the crap I'm saying ever. Go out and look for yourself, and that's what we're trying to do here, I think.
Yes, just encouraging everybody to go not believe everything you're told and to, go check it out. I could be wrong, and I actually want to be called out. I don't try to hide anything, so... I just want to get to the truth on all these stories, and that seems pretty obvious to me. But it shows you something when they're always trying to hide stuff. So they're kind of losing their credibility pretty badly. Yeah, CNN's pretty much swirling the drain right now. So. Yeah, things aren't going we got quite a mess to clean up, and I think we can actually turn this around very easily. And in fact, why don't I get to that before we get to anything? One of the most important stories I've seen this week, which was kind of went viral for a couple days and kind of disappeared, understandably, wasn't picked up by many in the media, and that is this. Citizens file articles of impeachment against Obama for sedition against the Constitution.
And that's regarding the executive directives, the executive orders, the 23 things that he wants to
everything.
do.
That's not even just that.
Is it Benghazi? Is it?
Yes, it is for, yes, he has aided America's enemies, violated his oath, sending funds to insurgents in Syria. Yes, the cover-up of the Operation Fast and Furious. Yes, Benghazi, Obama's Watergate.
But it's not just about Fast and Furious, because it was a thing that didn't go well. That's arming, aiding, and abetting the enemy. Weapons were given to make the enemies of the United States stronger. Now you go back to Iran-Contra, you go back a long way, and geopolitics starts to get really dicey to the point where you've double-crossed the double-crosser, and then you're back to square one, except you got a new boss in charge by the time, and they didn't know about the first order, and then you're double-crossing the triple-cross versus the quadruple-cross, and you don't even know what's going on, and it's just a big cluster thing.
Yep.
Okay, so I mean, I'm even willing to understand that this could have been something that could be misconstrued or would look really bad, so you lie about it. I understand, but impeachable things, aiding and abetting the enemy, and they're killing Brian Terry with these weapons, our Border Patrol agent. Imagine having that job of Border Patrol only to learn that they're making our own government that refuses to shut down the border between our country and the other one. I mean, they shut down the border between Disneyland and not Disneyland so that you have to buy a ticket. Why can't we do it with the country? It doesn't mean you hate anybody. Disney doesn't hate anyone, but they're running a business. You can't run normal operations in a country if people are just doing whatever they want and smuggling whatever they want and doing whatever they want and causing as much violence as they want. You can't have that. But the same government that won't even put up a border wall to have some checkpoints and let people in. Come on in, show your ID, cool, come on in, whatever, coolio. Don't be smuggling all that heroin, please. I mean, just some basic common sense. Making the enemy, these drug cartels, giving them more powerful weapons so that they can kill the Border Patrol agents that are trying to defend a border that has no clear, some very sketchily defined borders. I mean, just imagine if that were your cousin that was killed on the border named Brian Terry. How would you feel? And is that an impeachable act? I mean, come on. If you're giving the enemy weapons to kill Americans, that's the definition of treason and treachery and impeachable acts, and go down the line. These are serious things, and you go down the history and the list of Eric Holder, the armed insurrection of the ROTC place, trying to brainwash people against the Second Amendment. You go on, and you're like, wait a minute, are all of these things not true? Or is the media not connecting the dots here and asking very tough questions, regardless of Republican, Democrat, because they should have been doing it with the Patriot Act and all the other crap that Bush was doing,
Right. So, speaking of just, quick, easy solutions, there we go. We can easily impeach Obama. There's on multiple fronts. I mean, yes, Fast and Furious, aiding rebels, of course, Benghazi, telling Congress that his authority came from the United Nations.
Oh, boy.
Prior to the attack on Libya. Let's see, ignored congressional rejection of the cybersecurity bill. Of course, NDAA, that's a big one. Forcing Obamacare, Americans to buy health insurance. Declared war on America's coal industry, bankrupting companies. Of course, he got special deals for GE, which gave to his campaign. There's a lot of different things. So that doesn't even get into who this guy is and his background and his identity, which is also going through the Supreme Court. Orly Tates, I can't remember how to pronounce her name,
Tates.
But there's that. Yes, so there's a lot of things that are
is
very
that going
easy.
to the Supreme Court? Because I thought that had died somewhere along the way.
I don't know. I think the last I heard was about a week ago. So unless it's changed since then, I don't know. It looks like it's going to come up, but who knows how these things change.
Well,
obviously they don't want that truth to come out either. So there's a lot of different things that are going on right now. Any one of them, any of these scandals could easily bury Obama.
Pardon the pun.
Easily.
Pardon the pun.
Yes. Oh yes, pardon the pun. No, we're not. We're
Barry.
not calling for violence. Not calling for
No.
for
His
jail.
name is Barry.
We're just saying we just want to know what's going on.
No. Blake, I'm saying that his name is Barry.
Oh, good call, Brian.
Barry O. Barry O. Sorry. Anyway, that one kind of flew past, but
no worries.
Hey, you know what? What are we gonna do except talk about it? You know, I don't know. Does anything get done? Does it?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. You're talking about easy solutions. It's right there. We could really turn things around for all the doom and gloom and all the bad things that are going on. We could really easily get to the. We could easily change things around. Obviously, getting to the business of what's in Obama's past, what's Benghazi. Once all the truth comes out for Benghazi, Fast and Furious, and Obama's identity and NDAA and all those things. It really could, cause a sort of chain reaction, I guess, which could eliminate a lot of corruption, and we could restart the banking system. I mean, it's really, it could be. We could easily turn this around and have a nice, happy, peaceful ending. It's just, and it's a simple solution. It's sitting right there. So, not to worry, but it's just about people getting together and deciding to make this happen.
When does Hillary testify on Benghazi?
I want to say it's got to be in a week or so, I think. I mean, I think I saw something about Rand Paul is talking about, it was in Business Week or Business Insider talking about it, so... he's looking forward to talking to her about that. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll go swimmingly, and we're going to get all the answers we need.
Probably, after all the delays.
Yeah, good times. What else we got, Blake? We got a few more things. Anything else?
I don't know what to say to top that.
Anything else to buzz through? I don't know if you saw this one weird story. Oh, by the way, here's something. House Republicans might run into a snag in trying to suspend congressional pay. This is an idea where the House Republicans, finally a good idea coming from the House. What is it? They say the Democrats are a party of bad ideas and the Republicans are a party of no ideas. Something like that. I don't know. I forget how they phrase that.
We could flip that either way.
Exactly. From time to time. But House Republicans might run into a snag in trying to suspend congressional pay as a way to nudge budget negotiations along. The U.S. Constitution is part of the problem. As part of a proposal to raise the debt limit for 3 months, the House GOP would suspend pay for members of Congress unless both the House and Senate pass a budget blueprint for the next fiscal year. I like it. I love it. It's common sense. The measure plays to public disaffection with Congress, which has been locked in a bitter spending battle, and appeals to the small government wing of the Republican Party, which doesn't like government spending to begin with. It's also a dig at Senate Democrats, who have gone for years without adopting a budget plan. The problem is immediately withholding pay from lawmakers may be unconstitutional. The 27th Amendment states no law changing compensation for members of the House or the Senate can take effect until after the next House election. That means that a law, even if it were to clear the Democratic-controlled Senate, which is a long shot, could not be used to withhold pay for almost 2 years. To that I say, so what? Do it now, and in 2 years, you're going to have to deal with it, because they haven't been passing budgets, and shockingly enough, trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon trillions upon, you get the point, have been added to our national credit card, which is pretty ridiculous. Any thoughts on this one?
No, I mean, these guys just don't have any solutions for anything. Besides getting rid of the debt ceiling, kicking the can down the road, and, without getting into the whole... I don't know. And you're talking about a bond market collapse that could be potentially coming up. You're talking about a credit downgrade. There's all kinds of things right now. I mean, I was just talking about, time to, restart the economy. Obviously, there's no solutions in sight that are going to work. And I don't know. And I guess it could get into the whole conspiracy theory of, are they getting ready for a collapse? Do they know that it's going to happen? Is that part of the reason they're pushing this gun control debate so quickly, trying to, ram through legislation? Are they worried about possibly being overthrown? Which is also a possibility. So
those are some really difficult questions, and I think we're out of time to answer them for today. But, that's why we're doing this, to try to stop things from getting weird. You know, it's pretty common
Right.
sense. We don't want things to get weird, so
No,
we're just
it's the last thing we want is out here talking about it, so we don't have to have anything happen that we're all going to regret.
Exactly. That's the last thing that's in your heart and in my heart. Nobody wants to see anything devolve so poorly, but it just looks like, just like anything, if your favorite football team is being run into the ground by lousy management, you have a legitimate concern, and you stop buying your tickets to the games, and you stop supporting the team, or you'll always support the team. It's like, I love my country, but I don't like my government. Things like that, and it's just like, at some point you got to put some competent people in there. But the problem is, has the entire system become so bastardized, so riddled with fraud and just graft and disgusting filthiness. I don't even know how to. I'm trying not to use some bad words here, but I mean, is the system salvageable? I think so. I think we can do a hard reset on our computer and get things going again. It's not working. Hit the hard reset, restart your programs, do a couple updates, check for malware, and let's reboot the system. It's not complicated.
Impeachment, secession, really quick, really easily, bring out all the information, restart the banking system, and wow, we can really start forward, get everybody on the same page, and rebuild everything. It should be an exciting time.
You know what? Let's just hope that they can manage it a little bit better than they have been, because this is starting to get ridiculous to the point where, you surround yourself with children, but are you telling them how much in debt they're at per child by the time that they grow up and they're 18 years old? What was it, $200,000 in debt by the time those kids that were used as props to push a weird agenda grow to be 18 years old? They're already $200,000 in debt based on current projections. I mean, it's just, that's not good. That's not, I was never raised thinking that more debt equals awesome. The less possible. You always have to invest in yourself, but you never want to put yourself in a bad situation. But the situation we find ourselves in right now, Blake, is that we're out of time. So why don't you tell everybody one last time where they can check out you, all of the various outlets where they can find your work so they can stay connected in between shows.
All right, well, the website's eccentricperspective.com. Please follow me on Twitter, eccentric99, and I also have the podcast. My radio show is at Freedomizer Radio, which can be found, www.freedomizeradio.com, and also the broadcast, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 12 to 1:30 Pacific time. You can catch me live. Otherwise, I do have the archives and the podcast, which you can find, Eccentric Perspective, on iTunes.
Excellent. Well, Blake, appreciate you joining us on Agree to Disagree again. And
hey, thank you, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's stay connected on Twitter. Definitely follow me at Eccentric99. Twitter has become a very vital tool. It's basically my ever-refreshing newspaper these days. It's refreshing because it's different, and it's refreshing because every 10 seconds it refreshes and gives you new stories, so it's never static, and that's why we do a lot of our stuff on Twitter, and that's why we found a lot of stuff. So follow Blake. He's at Eccentric99. Check out his other avenues. And until next time, Blake, definitely appreciate your time joining us again today, all right?
All right, thanks, man. Have a good one, bro.
Take care, pal. That is Blake the Eccentric Walley. Definitely appreciate him joining the program again here on Agree to Disagree. It's our little top story extravaganza where we just kind of highlight the things that have been going on over the past week and get you caught up to speed. It's very reasonable to think that people are very distracted with family, with 9-to-5 jobs Monday through Friday. We have our own interpersonal relationships, our own money issues, relationship issues, family things, and we have our own lives going on, and sometimes it's hard to catch up on the important stories. I don't know if we covered all the important stories or not, but we gave you some that we felt were important. Try to give you little weird things from time to time, some fun stuff from time to time. Blend little sports in just, when it's relevant. With Manti Te'o and Lance Armstrong it was, but we didn't really get into that here. Check it out on YouTube when we post this, or at thenewamericanmedia.com. You can find the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, and we're going to talk about those things there. I want to thank Zach Barris for joining us there today as our co-host. My name's Brian Engelman. I really appreciate each and every one of you listening to this program, following us on Twitter at American_media_, liking our Facebook page at The New American Media. We'll be back again next week. Thank you again for your time. Peace.
You are listening to the New American Media.